Alright, so this video may not go out to the public. This may just be for my own notes. So forgive me if it's a little scattered if I do decide to publish it. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit about how to change, how to develop new habits. And, you know, it's kind of funny because as a coach, I'm never supposed to get injured, and I'm never supposed to put on extra pounds that aren't, you know, intentional, or I'm never supposed to fall off the wagon. There's a lot of things I'm never supposed to do as a coach. But before I was a coach, I was also human, and so those things tend to happen to me. And just like that, when it comes to starting new habits, I'm just as fallible as the next guy. I am not some magic guru who has it all figured out, but it is my job to help people figure these things out, and I have learned a few things over the years, and I just wanted to share with you a couple things that are maybe not things that you hear about too much when it comes to starting new habits. So the first thing that I want you to think about when you start a new habit is to, if you have a whole new lifestyle that you want to implement. And a lot of people fall into this category because changing your financial situation typically requires you to get way outside your comfort zone and change a lot of things. Same with your health. It's very, very close analogy with personal finances and health, in that to get healthy, if you're not healthy and you need to get healthy, it's usually not just a small tweak. There's usually a few things you got to take care of. You can maybe categorize it into exercise and nutrition, but those are big categories. So rather than come out with a big goal that requires you to change everything and then do it all at once, what I'd challenge you to do is ask yourself a question and continue to ask it over and over and over again until you get to one habit, one route that's going to have the most carryover to other things. And so what I mean by that is it doesn't necessarily have to be the biggest change or the most important change. What it has to be is just the single change that will prompt you to want to implement other change. So, for instance, if you are going to start a new exercise program and you haven't been exercising in the past, rather than start some big, complicated exercise program, I mean, I'd love, obviously, to have you come into my gym and let me coach you, but maybe that's not the right place for you to start. Maybe the right place for you to start is just to make sure that you are implementing the time every day to give that the priority. So if you have to do it before work in the morning, then you're going to have to start getting up earlier. So maybe the first habit you just need to develop is just getting up earlier. If you get up early and exercise hard your first day, you may feel good about it, and it may make you feel good, but it also could just kick your butt because you're getting an hour less sleep. Now you're doing more exercise, and by 2 in the afternoon you feel like a zombie. That's not a very good positive feedback loop for you to start, implementing all this big change in your life. But just getting up earlier, and maybe just go for a walk, or grab some coffee if you need it, or some breakfast, and just change one small habit in the morning that keeps you awake and alert, and gradually implement more and more activity into that hour. So if you start with a short walk and a cup of coffee, then that short walk might turn into a little bit of jogging, and you can set maybe a time scale for this if you like to geek out on numbers and have a plan. But my point is to start small, start with one thing, but it's not just starting with one thing and then adding another and adding another. You've probably heard that advice before, but what I want you to do is drill down to that one thing that's actually going to want to prompt you to do the next thing. So getting up early might be a good example for that. Exercise in general, I've heard a lot of feedback. This isn't scientific or anything, but I've heard a lot of feedback over the years, and I've experienced this myself, that if you're having a hard time with your nutrition and you want to make some big changes with your nutrition, when you start a structured exercise program, especially with a coach or a trainer or an accountability partner or something, or maybe a new gym, or whatever, if it's a big change that you've implemented and you're working out, there tends to be psychologically a much easier time sticking to your nutrition plan as well. Like, there's less resistance there, because psychologically, first of all, you feel good because you're winning. You know, you've done something right already, and that's a positive feedback loop for you. Second thing is your body starts to feel healthier. You tend to want to not put junk in it as much. And number three, you also feel like you don't want to waste all that effort you just put into exercise. So, you know, eating donuts after your workout there's not the same motivation as eating donuts while you're watching TV or something like that. So, first tip is drill down to just one small change that you can do. Second tip is drill down to what specific change will help carry over to motivation for other things. And there's a third aspect to this that I think is overlooked quite a lot. If you try to make a big sweeping change in your life and total makeover of your life, whether it's for finances or fitness or whatever, any mistake in that routine feels like failure. So let me give you an example. If you're just trying to change one very small habit, if you miss a day, yeah, that feels like failure, but it's you're only making a small change anyway, so you can kind of pick up on it the next day and move on. But if your goal is to have, you know, these perfect days where you get up earlier and you eat the right breakfast and you throw down an intense workout and then you dress better posture throughout the day, you know, you have all these different goals that go into being who you want to be, spending less, you know, making your meals at home instead of going out because you're getting your finances in order, and all these big changes. Screwing up on one of them makes you feel like you just failed the whole day because you had this image in your mind of this big sweeping change, and then you just fall back into an old habit somewhere. It makes you feel like a failure. But failure, you know, we look at failure as this big complete thing and success as this big complete thing, but they're not. They're actually, you know, success or failure when in regards to creating new habits and new lifestyles is a small incremental thing. So just like success doesn't look like a big aha moment at the end of, you know, you don't do 100 workouts and then magically you look in the mirror and all of a sudden everything changes. It's a very small incremental change. But failure is the same way. And for some reason we tend to look at failure as an event, like one event. It's not. It's a series of events. So if you are trying to implement a bunch of change in your life and you screw up one day or you miss one workout, that's not failure yet. The only way that that's failure is if it makes you want to miss the next one and the next one and the next one and the next one and the next one. So failure is an ongoing process, just like success is an ongoing process. If you keep that in mind when you're trying to make these changes, remind yourself that failure is not durable. That's a great quote that I just heard the other day. Francis Ford Coppola, I think, is who said it. Failure is not durable. You know, if you fail one day, that doesn't make you a failure. You haven't actually failed at anything. You just neglected to implement the change that you want to see on that day. But you know, if you pick up and you continue to try the next day, you haven't failed at all, actually. But it's the same with success also. You know, you can give yourself a pat on the back for making these positive changes, but just realize that it's a long haul mentality. But just realize that long haul mentality actually works both ways. That it's you realize, I think most people realize that success is a long haul thing, but failure is also a long haul thing. So just don't let it be. Don't let it creep in. When you make a mistake, just say, "Oh man, I totally slept in today. I meant to get up earlier for that workout. What can I do tonight to make sure that I get to sleep at a better time? Or what can I do to prevent that same mistake tomorrow?" and not look at it as an all-encompassing failure. So I don't know, hopefully those helped. When we implement change here, just like with our Couch to CrossFit program that we're starting up next week, we have people come in. It's a very, very short workout. They're already changing a habit just by showing up at the gym. And so the very first thing that we try to get them to do with nutrition is just to change breakfast. We don't give them a whole nutrition plan for which that they can cheat once and feel like a failure. We just give them one small incremental change that they can implement, which is just breakfast. And then a week later, try to get breakfast in that week. And we even tell them, obviously the goal is to change the habit, but if you fail once during the week, that's fine. If you get 4 or 5 healthy breakfasts in a week that was no healthy breakfasts, then that's a net positive change, right? So you got to give yourself credit where credit's due, that you're actually changing that habit by focusing in on that one little aspect. And then just continue to focus in on that until you feel like you've achieved a bit of success in the habit, not in the results, but in the habit itself. And then the second week, we try to get people to drink more water, for instance. So those small incremental changes. And then what's fun too is to actually have a point where you can look back and say, I did make a bunch of mistakes, but in the last month, I've had, 24 healthy breakfasts. Well, at the time, that may feel like a failure because you've had, 6 or 7 unhealthy breakfasts, and so that kind of gets in your mind. But if you look back and say, man, I had 24 healthy breakfasts, or I worked out 16 times this week and I wasn't before, that's 16 steps toward progress that you didn't make before. So even though day to day you feel like you're slipping up and you never have this perfect day that you had in your mind, those small incremental changes really start to add up, and then you can kind of snowball that success. But yeah, so take it a piece at a time for what it's worth. I hope that helps you out, and I'll see you on the flip side.